A pale, washed-out morning settled over Outpost 12. Fog drifted low across the metal platforms, clinging to railings and machinery like a second skin. Evangelina sat quietly on the pad, her hull still carrying the faint scorch marks from the blackout. Trevor stood beside the ship, arms wrapped around himself, breath unsteady. He hadn't slept. Not really. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw a silhouette in the trees, a figure in his doorway. That impossible stillness, that feeling of being opened. He rubbed his temples, trying to steady the tremor in his hands. Trevor had spent years hiding from the conglomerate, years pretending to be dead to the Union, years building a life out of lies and careful masks. But nothing in his past had prepared him for the thing that looked at him last night. He swallowed hard.
You need help. Something to calm your nerves, something to sleep, before you fall apart completely.
He scanned the outpost, the market stalls, the walkways, the distant buildings. Somewhere out there, someone had to have something. Behind him, a voice carried faintly through the fog. The handler stood on the far side of the docking yard, hands clasped behind his back, speaking quietly with two escorts. He didn't look at Trevor. He didn't need to. Trevor froze anyway. He knew that posture well, that stillness, the way of listening without showing. It was the posture of someone who had been trained to read a room, and the people in it. Trevor's pulse quickened.
Is a union? Conglomerate? Did they find me?
Inside him, Daniel recoiled, a faint, instinctive flinch, like an animal sensing a predator. Trevor forced himself to look away, forced himself to breathe, forced himself to pretend he wasn't unraveling. But the thought wouldn't leave him.
If he's here for me, I need to get myself under control.
He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the faint echo of Daniel deep inside. The maintenance bay was quiet, except for the soft hum of idle systems. Trevor stood over an open panel, pretending to check a conduit he'd already checked twice. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Footsteps approached behind him.
Harry.
Trevor stiffened. He turned slowly. Cullen stood there, arms folded, studying him with a look that wasn't suspicion, but something gentler, something heavier.
Listen, I have no idea what happened out there. The blackout, the strange darkness. You steering us out of it like you could see in there.
Trevor's breath caught.
I don't know what's going on with you, but I know this.
He stepped closer and placed a steady hand on Trevor's shoulder.
You saved Evangelina. You saved all of us.
Trevor blinked, stunned. He opened his mouth to speak, to deny it, to explain, to confess, but nothing came out. Cullen squeezed his shoulder once, firm and warm.
When you want to talk about it, I'm here.
Trevor swallowed hard.
Thank you.
Cullen nodded, then hesitated, as if weighing whether to say more.
And Harry, if you need something to help you sleep or calm your nerves, the market here has all sorts of things. Might be worth a look.
Trevor let out a shaky breath.
Yeah, maybe I'll do just that.
Cullen gave him a small, reassuring nod and walked away. Trevor stood alone in the quiet bay, Cullen's words echoing in his mind. He didn't know what was happening to him, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't face another night like the last one. He wiped his palms on his trousers, steadied himself, and headed toward the market. The market was a patchwork of metal stalls and makeshift awnings, arranged in the loose circle around a cracked concrete courtyard. The afternoon light filtered through drifting fog, turning everything a muted gray. Vendors murmured to customers, tools clinked, A generator hummed somewhere out of sight. Trevor stepped into the square with his shoulders hunched, hands shoved deep into his jacket pockets. His eyes darted from stall to stall, scanning faces, scanning shadows. He wasn't looking for trouble. He was looking for help. Something to steady the shaking in his hands. Something to keep the night from swallowing him whole. A vendor waved a metal trinket at him. "Good price today, friend. Genuine alloy." Trevor shook his head and kept walking. Another vendor called out,
"Spices, dried roots, painkillers if you need them."
Trevor hesitated. Painkillers. Close enough. He approached the stall. A cluttered table covered in jars, bundles of dried leaves, and small vials filled with cloudy liquids. The herbalist, a wiry man with deep-set eyes, looked him over with a practiced merchant's gaze.
"What can I get you, my friend?"
Trevor cleared his throat, trying to sound casual.
Something for sleep or nerves. Just something to take the edge off.
The herbalist's expression shifted. Not suspicion, but recognition. He'd seen this kind of request before.
"I've got teas, powders, a few sedatives if you're not picky about side effects."
Trevor leaned in slightly.
Something strong?
"Strong enough to knock out a dock worker. But you
He studies Trevor's face.
look like you need something different."
Trevor stiffened.
What's that supposed to mean?
"You're not tired. You're haunted."
Trevor's breath caught. He forced a laugh that didn't sound like him.
Long week.
The herbalist glanced around the market, then leaned closer, lowering his voice.
"If you want something that actually helps, you should talk to Cecilia."
Trevor frowned.
Cecilia.
The herbalist nodded toward the tree line beyond the last row of stalls, a narrow path leading out of the settlement.
"Lives out there. Knows things the rest of us don't. People go to her when medicine isn't enough."
Trevor followed the man's gaze. The path looked ordinary, but if it was excitement or fear, the look of it filled Trevor with unease.
What is she, a doctor?
"Not exactly.
Trevor waited.
But she's helped people who see things, people who hear things, people who can't sleep because something is pressing on them.
Trevor's stomach tightened.
If you're desperate, she's your best chance."
Trevor swallowed hard.
Where do I find her?
The herbalist pointed again toward the trees.
"Follow the path until you see smoke. She'll know you're coming."
Trevor blinked.
How?
The herbalist shrugged.
"She just does."
Trevor hesitated, then nodded, stepping back from the stall.
Thank you.
"Good luck, friend."
Trevor turned toward the tree line, pulse quickening with every step. He didn't know what waited for him out there, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't face another night alone with whatever lived inside him. He headed toward the path, toward the smoke, toward her. The cabin appeared between the trees, small, weathered, built from dark timber that looked older than the settlement itself. A thin trail of smoke drifted from a crooked chimney. Bundles of dried herbs hung from the porch beams, swaying gently in the breeze. Trevor approached the steps, hesitating at the bottom. He lifted a hand to knock. The door opened before he touched it. A woman stood in the doorway, gray hair tied back, eyes sharp, steady, and far too knowing. She looked at Trevor for a long moment. Then her gaze shifted, not to his face, but through him. Her voice was calm, certain.
"You're carrying someone else's fear."
Trevor froze. Inside him, Daniel stirred, a sudden, involuntary pulse of alarm. The oracle's eyes narrowed slightly, as if she felt it.
Come in.